The angel Michael falls to earth, and using his knife, he painfully cuts off his wings, severing his connection with heaven. Now immortal, Michael breaks into a store and knocks out a security guard and steals his clothes. He stitches up the wounds where his wings were, before heading over to another location where he collects multiple high-powered firearms. Just as two cops are passing the location, a massive explosion causes them to stop. They see Michael exit the store and pull their weapons on him. Michael drops his bags, but as the cop tries to arrest him, he skillfully disarms him. Suddenly, the other cop begins to be possessed as an angel takes over his body. He warns Michael that if he continues, then he will be killed along with the child. Michael manages to kill the cop before getting away in their car. At a diner out in the middle of nowhere, Jeep, a young mechanic, is up early along with his friend Charlie, who is pregnant for another man. Charlie is planning to put the baby up for adoption as she doesn't think she is ready to be a mom, but Jeep tells her that he wants to raise her baby and be a family, even though his entire family mocks him for it. Later, Kyle is heading to LA for a custody hearing, but he is lost. He pulls over to the diner where Charlie is outside secretly having a smoke. He heads inside to get a phone call, and there is another family stranded there waiting on their car to be fixed. Jeep's father, Bob, goes to check on their car, but Jeep is busy doing something else. The two then have an argument over Charlie, and Bob tells him that he needs to stop following her around and wasting his time waiting for her while she bangs everybody else. After Bob leaves, Jeep notices dark clouds heading towards the diner on both sides. Inside, the phones, radio and television have stopped working, causing the patrons to become a bit worried. A dusty old car then pulls up outside and a sweet old woman with a walker walks in. Charlie takes her order, and she begins to talk with the couple Sandra and Howard, who asks if she heard anything strange on her way there, and she creepily tells them it will be over soon. Charlie returns with the old woman's steak. When she tells Charlie that her baby will burn, everyone is shocked hearing the old woman suddenly swear and curse, and Howard confronts her, but she bites into his neck. The chef throws a pan at her, but the old woman, possessed by an angel, begins to crawl on the roof. Bob grabs his gun and tries to attack, but the woman knocks him back. Jeep picks up the gun but cannot pull the trigger, so Kyle shoots her dead. They drag Howard to Kyle's Jeep and plan to get to a hospital, but on their way, they realize that the dark clouds are actually flies, which begin to flood into the car. They rush back to the diner just as the flies swarm over. Jeep, Kyle and Bob bring the old woman's body outside and see a police car speeding towards them. Michael steps out and Bob pulls a gun on him, demanding to see his teeth. Michael disarms Bob but suddenly tells them that more like the old woman are coming. He gives them guns before taking the rest of his weapons inside, where everyone begins to barricade the diner. Later that night, the lights suddenly go out. The men head to the roof to get a better vantage point when they hear an ice cream truck in the distance. The truck comes to a stop at the diner and a pale-looking man steps out, slowly transforming his body before attacking, but the men open fire, killing him. Kyle thinks that's it, when they spot a traffic of cars heading their way. Everyone opens fire, causing a few of the cars to crash, but there are too many. The possessed people all begin to surround the diner and Kyle thinks they are just regular people, but Michael warns him to keep firing. Inside the diner, everyone is on edge when something comes flying through the windows and suddenly begins to drag Howard away. They try to help him and Charlie is almost dragged outside, but Michael saves her. Unfortunately, Howard is dragged away. Outside, the possessed all turn and begin to walk away. They head back downstairs and demand that Michael explain what is going on. The angel tells them that God has sent his angels to wipe out humans, having grown tired of his creation. He reveals he is an angel but has defied God in order to save Charlie. Her baby is the only chance to save humanity and they need to survive the attacks until it is born. Everyone is in shock, but Michael adds that whether or not they fight, something worse is on its way. Kyle and the chef are keeping watch on the roof and the chef asks Kyle about his gun, thinking he might be a gangster. Kyle explains that he uses it for protection, but today was his first time firing it or shooting anyone, which has really shaken him up. Inside, Sandra is distraught over losing her husband and Bob hands her a beer out of pity. Jeep is alone with Michael and asks him about his past in heaven. Michael explains that he was a general in God's army and was there to see the creation of humans, being the first to bow before us. But humans trampled on the love of God and he lost faith. Michael adds that he has not lost faith and will somehow prove that humans deserve a second chance. That morning, Sandra is awakened by a voice whispering her name. She follows the voice that sounds like Howard's coming from outside. Sandra looks outside to see Howard's crucified upside down with boils all over his skin. Sandra moves the blockade and rushes outside and the cook grabs her just as Howard explodes in acid. He brings her back inside but falls dead. They tie Sandra to a table and she begins to curse her daughter Audrey, saying Howard's death is her fault, since they were moving because of her. They get the radios working and hear a report of the apocalypse happening all over. But humans are fighting back against the angels, with a safe haven nearby. They want to head to the location, but Michael warns that they should stay put until the baby is born. Later, the lights suddenly come on and they think that it is all over, but look outside to see a van heading their way. Kyle and Audrey are on the roof when they see a man frantically run out to get gas, with his son inside the car. Other cars suddenly begin pulling up, and despite the warnings to leave, the dad gets ran over by a car. Possessed people grab the little boy from the van and begin to drag him away, so Kyle opens fire and fights his way to the boy. He picks up the boy and is surrounded, but the little boy is possessed and attacks him. Audrey jumps off the roof to help him, but ends up trapped in a van surrounded by the possessed. Michael heads out and begins to shoot down the people and grabs Audrey. They barely make it inside as the van explodes, but the little possessed boy has come inside. It uses a knife to slice Charlie's stomach and attack her, before cutting off its own fingers. The lights go out and they hear it scampering around before it attacks Bob, but Jeep manages to shoot it dead. Charlie begins to go into labor, and just then they hear a trumpet sounding from heaven. Michael warns that he is coming, and urges Charlie to push, while outside the possessed surround the diner as lightning begins to strike. Charlie manages to give birth to the baby, but does not want to look at it or grow too close. Audrey brings the baby to show to her mother. Sandra apologizes to her for earlier but is slowly loosening her bounds. Audrey thinks that they are safe now, but Michael tells her that now the baby will have a chance to grow up and lead the world back to good. As the baby cries, the possessed people begin to cry out in pain. Michael is preparing his weapons in a rush, explaining that Gabriel is on his way to complete the task that he could not. Audrey demands to know what he is talking about, and Michael confesses that the baby was never to be born, but now the future has been rewritten. Sandra then grabs the baby, telling them that she will hand it over to stop all this. Michael shoots her dead, just as the angel Gabriel marches through the door. He attacks Jeep holding the baby, but Jeep escapes. Bob tries to help, but Gabriel slices him with his wings and kills him. Michael tells Jeep to take the baby and run. Outside, the possessed all stand aside as Jeep, Audrey and Charlie pass them and get into a car, driving away. Inside, Gabriel faces his brother, warning that the baby will be punished, and he will not escape judgment. Michael tries convincing him to join his cause, but Gabriel tells him he has no choice. The two begin to battle, with Michael using his gun and barely evading Gabriel's mace. Gabriel overpowers him, slicing him with his wings and beating him down, but Michael is able to get a choke hold on him. Gabriel then grabs his mace and uses it to stab Michael through the chest. As Michael dies, he is surrounded in light and his body disappears. Gabriel turns to leave, but Bob ignites the gas, blowing up the diner and the possessed outside. Jeep is driving away when Michael's tattoos suddenly appear on his body. Gabriel lands on their car and begins to attack them. He tries to go for the baby, but Jeep stops suddenly, sending Gabriel flying and the car running off the road. Only Jeep, Audrey and the baby survive the crash, and they both climb up a hill to get away, but Gabriel flies in and knocks away Jeep. He tells Audrey to hand over the child, but Jeep jumps back in and they fall off a cliff. Gabriel is about to end him, when Michael descends from heaven in a bright light. Gabriel is shocked at this and tries attacking Michael, but he expertly slices him down. Gabriel begs for Michael to kill him, but Michael shows him mercy and he flies away. Michael tells Jeep to protect the baby before he flies away as well. Jeep climbs up the cliff to join Audrey and the baby as they set off to save mankind. Remember to turn on notifications, so you can watch more movie recaps like this. Thanks for watching.